Matthew Bannock, Z1892838, Architecture of Chicago. When you think Chicago, what do you think? Some think the Windy City. Some think sports. Some think museums. Some even think the place they must go for work. But I think, as with many others, is skyscrapers, a beautiful architecture. Did you know Chicago is home to the first skyscraper in the world? The Home Insurance Building, built in 1885, towered above all other buildings, an impressive 10 floors. Chicago, for the rest of history, will have some of the tallest and most impressively built skyscrapers. These buildings were built by world-renowned architects, all competing to design the newest skyscrapers planned in the Windy City. You may think, why is this important for me to listen to? Cities are the center of civilization, and skyscrapers is truly what makes a city a city. The loud and busy streets with millions of people trying to get to work every day to some of the most important jobs in the world. To keep our society running would be impossible without cities and skyscrapers. Skyscrapers go beyond looking pretty as well. There's a deep and interesting history of each building being functional and serving a purpose. I lived in the greater Chicago area my whole life and have been into the heart of the city a countless number of times. I have done several research projects and papers on the city, researching many different aspects of the culture and, of course, the buildings. I have always been fascinated with art, which includes architecture, and even more so the history of and Chicago's story, which is rich and intriguing with details. I have discovered many more facts on the architecture of Chicago and its many architects. Today, I would like to share with you what I've learned about 1. The history of Chicago and its skyscrapers, 2. Bruce John Graham and his work with the Hancock Building, and 3. At one time, the tallest building in the world. Chicago architecture has an interesting history. As stated in the intro, Chicago built the first skyscraper in history. According to Remembrances of the Home Insurance Building by Theodore Turek, the Home Insurance Building was one of the 19th century's most significant structures. This building was the start to the great cities of today, and Chicago holds that legacy. From then on, the Windy City has produced some beautiful buildings and some wonderful architects. According to Journal of the Society of Architectural Historians, Frank Lloyd Wright and his Prairie style pioneered an arts and craft movements that swept the world. Also, Louis Sullivan and the Sullivan Center in Chicago set a baseline for department stores in cities. And Bruce John Graham with the Hancock Building set a high bar for any city. Now that we discussed some history on the Windy City, let's focus on one architect. Perhaps not the most famous Chicago architect, but for the city, one of the most important, Bruce Graham. This architect built some amazing buildings, and one of his first is the John Hancock Center. According to the MIT Press, with their highly skilled researchers and their skilled authors, their portfolio architecture, the Hancock Building was truly an impressive structure. Measuring at 100 floors and 1,128 feet without the antenna, this structure was once the second tallest in the world. This building is designed using structural expressionist style, being able to see the struts of the structure from the outside. This building was a wonder at the time and set a precedent for skyscrapers in the years to come, earning many awards after its completion. This building's biggest tourist attraction is called the Signature Room. It's a restaurant on the 95th floor, giving visitors a wonderful view of the city. Overall, this structure has become a staple in the Chicago skyline and is one of Bruce Graham's greatest works. Bruce Graham has spent a lot of time in Chicago. Born in 1925, he's one of the first modern architects and set a standard for buildings in cities. He worked around the world, building in London, Hong Kong, and of course, Chicago. He built these buildings while working at SOM, an architecture firm. While the John Hancock Center is truly impressive, it is not his most influential design. His most influential building is the Sears Tower, now called the Willis Tower, the most recognized building in Chicago and the Midwest. Although the tower is officially called the Willis Tower, I will be calling it the Sears Tower, and any person from around Chicago will understand. The tower was designed by, of course, Bruce Graham, and another lead designer was Fazlur Khan. According to the Chicago Tribune and their article on the Sears Tower, the building made a statement with its tube design. The accomplishments of both designers should not go unrecognized, with the design going through several revisions and drafts to finally settle on a product. When the Sears Tower was completed, it was its tallest building in the world and held that title for 22 years. It has 108 official stories, 110 according to the people from the Windy City, and stands at 1,450 feet without the antenna. This building was the skyscraper for a long time and really made Chicago a world-recognized city. In closing, Chicago architecture had a massive impact on the world. From the first skyscraper to the tallest building in the world, Bruce Graham and the Chicago people cemented themselves in the history books in creating their beautiful city. I will leave you with this. Architecture should speak of a time and place, but yearn for timelessness.